welcome to all of you once more. So I think Sandeep Marwah could join, right? Yes. So let me start with what is about today's discussion and why we have chosen this topic, workplaces in the post-lockdown period. Usually, I often see that architects and designers are talking to architects and designers for their community to live. It's usually, within the zone for rich content and bringing in content which is useful for the industry, we thought of why not to bring in the other stakeholders from where can bring in different and important insights. We are dealing with a crisis this time, and businesses are looking for solutions from architects and designers for restarting and managing their workplaces in a better way, in a much better way. So what we feel is that the voice of architects should reach further beyond the community to the sectors which need them, to the clients, to the consumers who are in search of the design-less solution. The Services Reporter magazine has decided to act as a bridge between the communities and to bring in the perspectives from leaders of various sectors. Today we have leaders from the media and the pharmaceutical sector, as well as we have someone from ITC. It's one of the India's foremost private sector companies with diversified presence and needs no introduction. Mr. Sanjeev Marwah is there, and I requested him that, okay, why don't you come for 10-15 minutes and give some insights about ITC as well, because this is a kind of interaction that we're having between corporates and thought leaders in the architecture and design industry. So he's also there. I welcome Tateo, Nakajima, who is from Arup, and he will be sharing global perspectives about workplace design. So we have a very, very interesting, lineup of panelists today, and I am myself very much excited to lead this discussion and to come out with some interesting takeaways. And I must tell you, this is not the end of it. We are doing this because we are going to have this as a cover story of the upcoming Services Reporter magazine, which we want to be reaching to the corporates and to the design fraternity in a mass way. So this is the purpose of this discussion. And now coming to what is the current status of the world and why workplaces have all of a sudden become so important to be addressed in the new light. Globally, several thousands of companies and millions of workers have returned to their offices after the easing of lockdown in various places. The country where the earliest cases of coronavirus were reported is being watched by India, as we are looking for clues on what easing of the lockdown measures would look like and how the reopening of the economies would be. So, as we know that the COVID-19 pandemic continues to spread rapidly, disturbing normal life and global economy. In the absence of an established treatment, social distancing has emerged as the only solution to contain the corona spread. My first question goes to Mr. Jimmy Mistry. I would like to know and start with you, Jimmy. How has COVID impacted the commercial real estate segment? Let us come on the same page about the status of the real estate segment and the commercial real estate segment before we move to workplaces in particular. So over to Jimmy.
Good morning to all. COVID has been a black swan event. If this was a natural disaster, but let's say it was floods, it was earthquake, it was any form of natural disaster, you could have seen the physical destruction. In this case, the destruction is psychological. It has affected the human being. Everything else is the status quo. Everything remains the same as pre-COVID to post-COVID. It is the human being, the psychological aspect of human beings that has been really shattered. We realize and acknowledge the fact that the commercial angle is so high that so many of the businesses will never see a light at the other end of the tunnel. Might be 30% of them, might be 35% of them. Right now, we do not know because the situation is so dynamic. Coming to commercial real estate, last year, India had its fantastic run on commercial real estate. And if surveys are to be believed, it's about 45 million square feet of commercial real estate that was offloaded, which is a record of sorts anywhere in the world. This year, whether even 5 million square feet would be offloaded is a question mark. How many will continue to still occupy out of the 45,000 square feet is a question mark. already landlords and tenants are in dispute over the percentage of discount or the slashing of rent that should happen. The industry, if industry pundits are to be believed, majority of them are looking at anything from a 30 to 40% cut down in the rentals, at least in the immediate term, and going on so on and so forth. So commercial real estate is in a difficult situation, and not to forget the human psychology aspect that I've told you about. So this is one aspect of it. The second aspect of it is Indian mindset of entrepreneurs and business owners has always been sasta sundar tikau. So now if they realize that working from home is a reality, and somebody who had a 10,000 square feet office, MSME I'm talking about in particular, I'm not talking of the multinationals, and can manage now with 3,000 square feet, believe you me, you are never going to see that 10,000 square feet again. This is the end of the road. People are going to downsize, and downsize with vengeance, because cost cutting is the only rupee saved is rupee earned. So for every entrepreneur, cost cutting, and even large organizations, they have taken cost cutting to a different level. Having said that, as soon as post-COVID, when people return back to their offices, let us start from the building entrances. The building entrances are going to be with some kind of a sterilization spray, be it ozone oriented, or be it any of the new generation technologies and antibacterial sprays that we are talking about. For their goods and for their bags, UV trolleys and scanners would be there. Just as we have baggage scanners, you'll be having a UV scanner that will disinfect the parcel or the bag that you're carrying along. We go inside, the elevators will become touchless. They'll be voice activated and controlled. A lot of the local elevator companies have already come up with their own versions. The established players, as usual, are the last to respond to any crisis. And the big brands are still to install voice activation within the elevators, even though, according to me, technology-wise, it's a piece of cake. There is nothing in it. It can be retrofitted. It can be finished off. So you move into the elevator. Social distancing norms in elevators is going to be a question mark. For a 15-passenger elevator, are we going to take 3 people and make a huge queue of people wait outside for entering their office? If you logistically work out in a building like India Bulls or anywhere else across in India, the queues can be as long as more than an hour to just enter an elevator, if you really go strictly by the social distancing norms. Story outside the buildings are very different, because you want to do social distancing within the offices, blah, blah, have 30% people come back to work in shifts. All of those things are being worked out. What will happen to the average Mumbaikar or the average Indian who's going to use public transport and get there? And I'm especially talking in category A cities.
I'll come to those questions again. And thank you for this insight that you've given about the real estate. So what Jimmy has told us just now is that commercial real estate is in a difficult, situation. Sasta Sundar Tikau is what India, most of the Indian population had always been looking for. And aaj ke date mein, they now know that ghar se kaam karna hai and ghar se shayad karna padega. And he has also talked about downsizing. Yes, downsizing is a reality according to Jimmy. Taking this forward, I want to go to Jimmy Mistry. Jimmy, would you please add on your perspective on products and materials, and also touch upon the technology factor and how we are going to see our technology and products combined together in the workplaces in the times of COVID?
If you typically look at retrofitting an office right now, access control systems will be replaced from thumb scanners to face recognition, and that's almost a given. It's happening as we speak. Auto door openers will be more frequently used. We get into the offices, new age materials, rather than changing the materials and going in for it, you get antimicrobial new generation sprays across that a lot of companies are working with. The efficacy of the spray is a debatable issue right now since test results are not available. However, companies like Aegis are coming up with a solution which is an antimicrobial shield. They are talking about 45 days, the efficacy of the spray to be good enough for 45 days to even 120 days. This is one way of looking at it. So the whole office is going to be now not a breeding ground for the virus or the virus to sustain. Even if the virus gets into the office, it gets destroyed with sprays like these. However, when we talk of social distancing norms within the office, we also need to understand our public transportation systems, our elevators, our group housing policies do not allow for people for social distancing. So we may do everything in the office, but the person coming to the office is going to be infected because in a local train, he is not going to be able to get that 6 feet distance that we are talking about, come what may. The one other way of looking at it on this whole issue of new age materials is to only go in for solutions that are going to be long drawn, considering the fact that people are going to be infected, cases are going to happen. So barricading and dividing offices into zones is one option that can really work out, where departmental people work out of zones. Just putting a full height plexiglass partitions for every workstation is not going to be possible from the point of view of air circulation and air conditioning. Hence, it would be very mandatory to work departmentally. Accounts, finance, HR gets into its own hub and spoke approach and need not be in the same office. They can even operate from remote spokes. Hence, the whole organization is not contaminated, just in case if there's a contamination and the whole organization doesn't get contaminated. This is one very serious area where people are working on. Yes, I agree with architect Sikka. Home offices need to be given a lot of consideration, and new age materials at home as well. Small office, home office, Soho concepts came into being somewhere in 95, 96. But since then they've been dormant. Now this is a stage where people are suddenly, it's like a tsunami. Everybody's thinking of a home office and working and operating out of home. Technologies and security systems need to be upgraded for every organization, because the focus of IT security was predominantly within the office. Now it moves across to giving remote security access across to every employee. New age technologies can be incorporated, and touch-free systems and photocopiers would be voice command based. Pedal flushes will come into washrooms. So every touch point will be looked at. One area that's going to be really dismantled and redone is cafeterias within large organizations and offices. There was an experiment done by a Japanese company, I'm forgetting the name, where they took a UV ink and they proved it across to everybody within an organization. If a cafe were to run the way it was running pre-COVID, how many cases would be infected? And the percentage of infection was somewhere around 300% within a single day. And hence, cafeteria is going to be a complete taboo. We within hospitality industry are working out what will happen to our physical buffets. I'm sure the gentleman from ITC would be able to comprehend as well with me. So you need service staff, whereas offices was all self-service. Now the whole scenario will change within an office cafe. If you wish to run an office cafe, you need to serve the people. You cannot allow them to do self-service because contamination will spread. And these are areas that will change. Also flooring surfaces, a lot of learning to be brought in from the hospital industry, materials and products and surfaces being used in the hospital industry into homes, hospitality and offices. These are the products that will be the new age products that architects and designers will now recommend. So we are talking about antimicrobial fabrics. We are talking about use of copper as an element on doorknobs and door handles and stuff like that. So a lot of these changes, but we have a ready learning. Also, air conditioning that Anil ji spoke about is very critical. And again, people are going to go in for air conditioning, air quality audits, TFAs to be installed across, not just pulling in fresh air from outside without treating it further. The filters need to be changed and higher capacity filters need to be added. Also, isolation of air conditioning needs to be done from zone to zone. And that's where, again, going back to my logic of departmental segregation, because the way air conditioning systems traditionally were designed in offices, it's not always possible to go ahead and contain it into a zone. It was all shared common into the open areas and workstation spaces. So zoning of air conditioning and dividing physical barriers and partitions, that's again one more thing that will happen. So a lot of changes. It's very dynamic. It's extremely dynamic. We are learning each day. And sanitization, gases like ozone will play a very important role. Another area of concern for designers is to understand UV lighting. UV light is used as a weapon against microbes and bacteria, but every blue light is not a UV light. And the way China is thronging our Indian market with UV lights, as if every blue light is going to be a sterilization light. It's not happening. You need the right power supply, the right frequencies in UV for them to be effective enough against bacteria and microbes and viruses.
Okay, thank you, Jimmy. That was quite a lot of things. So Jimmy has talked about how every touch point, every touch point office will need some kind of change and intervention of technology. And he also talked about the antimicrobial surfaces, though it's a debatable something that, okay, how much it is effective in the sense. And he has talked about zoning, segregation of departments. He talked about a lot of things coming in, but we need to be cautious. We need to see what's really working and what's not.
So according to me, there has to be mitigation of risk. Every organization, as soon as post-lockdown they open up, their finances are already stretched and strained drastically. The biggest of the organizations are going through this. The smaller ones are absolutely, it's a bloodbath. People are wanting to mitigate the risk. As soon as an organization opens up, and no matter what we try and do, there are going to be positive cases. The organization individually or office by office on a floor, today they are locking a whole building. But in commercial buildings, it may not be possible to overnight lock down a whole building just because one office has had a case. What will happen is the organization will also go into a self-learning. They will want to mitigate the risk. The minute, let's say, office of XYZ company has been locked off, all their work has suffered when everybody else is working. Today, everybody is in a lockdown, it's okay. But when everybody else is working and one particular office goes into a lockdown, it's going to be a major issue. They will want to mitigate the risk and they will have to decentralize. Last whole decade has gone into centralizing operations from small offices to one office to a campus. Today, they are talking about breaking it down, decentralizing, mitigating risk, which is a reality. So no matter what we do, this risk has to be mitigated. And it's a fact for any organization. We as design consultants have to guide our clients to mitigate the risk, which is the most critical element. No matter what you do, there are going to be cases. And even the same is applicable in hospitality industry. No matter what you do, you will get guests and you are going to contaminate your place. You will shut down. So how soon can you zone your facility and mitigate the risk across and get back to business? So today,
very important.
Afforded.
So Jimmy has been stressing on this even earlier, that zoning is very important, and actually decentralization is something that architects might be and would be suggesting their clients to do, so that if certain area is kind of getting infected, not the entire operation is getting affected. My question is to all of you. What are the key recommendations as architects and designers? One key recommendation from each one of you that you'd like to give to corporates looking at ensuring the safe return of employees. One key insight, one key point that you'd like to give to the corporates, looking at ensuring the safe return of the employees. What is the one takeaway that you'd like to give? Yes, Jimmy, starting with you.
Vertica, post-COVID, working class population, office-going population is going to be divided into two parts. People who psychologically enjoy and like working from home, do not want to travel, and they will make the provisions. And hence they will be ready to even compromise and switch jobs to companies and organizations that are offering the facility. There is a second type of working class community, which Mr. Limaya pointed out, who are wanting to be associated with the brand, who want to be there because they are working for a Coca-Cola or they are working for XYZ organization. Those are the employees who will, come what may, never be happy at home. They want to get out of the house. They want to go and work in an organization. So there is going to be a lot of people quitting jobs, moving. This whole situation, I'm using the word again, is very, very dynamic. Looking at the commercials, they may continue to work right now, but given an opportunity, they will want to move to a TCS, which is offering 75% of its employees to work from home. And it is, again, very industry specific. You cannot use one rule for all industries. What's applicable to a creative industry is not applicable to others. But by and large, people will want to work out of their homes. That's my gut feeling. I may be wrong. Whenever possible, and especially the people in cities like Mumbai and Delhi who are traveling 4 hours a day, will definitely want those 4 hours a day to be more productive and stay at one point, or might be going to a hub office. And I'm very, very strong in promoting hub offices so that that particular department and division works close to their home, works in that area, contains their and mitigates their risk of contamination, and serves the organization far superior and better. I end it with that.